true regard to the mandate given to both of us.
From the Nairobi Metropolitan Police Unit to an 80 billion shillings boost,
on the 17th day of February 2026,
and Nairobi Governor Sakaja signed a cooperation deal. Set of leaders later this week on Thursday. Lots to talk about. LSK today and LSK tomorrow, and the role that it plays in the country's governance and democracy, as well as a host of other issues, even as we continue to go into an election year. Faith Odhiambo here. Maybe it's an exit interview. Maybe it isn't. All your questions, of course, we can pose to her. She will be here in just a moment on The Explainer. But also tonight, we have the day's sports news. And Emmanuel, the man with the sports news, is here.
Yes, indeed. Good to be with you again tonight, Yvonne. And we have a range of sports going on today. We have a big mix-up at Tusker FC in the Kenya Premier League, and we have news from our only Kenyan representative at the Winter Olympics. So a lot more to come over there.
Sounds interesting. All right, that, of course, is all on The Explainer that starts right now.
From Citizen TV, this is The Explainer with Yvonne Okwara.
Good evening once again. Liz Otieno is our sign language interpreter. We would like to begin the program tonight with the national government that is to inject an additional 80 billion shillings of funding to Nairobi County under a new deal aimed at strengthening the performance of county functions and improving service delivery to the capital city. Under the new collaboration agreement signed today, a joint steering committee chaired by Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi will oversee the implementation of 4 key sectors, including housing, roads, water provision and waste management within the city. Stephen Latour reports.
Excellencies, kind permission, sir, I now...
In a signing ceremony held at State House, Nairobi, Nairobi County opened doors for the national government to collaborate in provision of services in 4 critical sectors, including waste management, road development, housing, and water provision.
Allow me to first confirm that we've had tea. The last time such a document was signed, a similar one, People had other things.
In the deal, a steering committee has been established to be chaired by Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, while Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja will be the vice chair. The steering committee shall be meeting quarterly. Others that will sit in the steering committee include Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen, his Treasury counterpart John Mbadi, as well as CSs in charge of lands, environment, energy, water and 2 attorneys. The deal has also established an implementation committee that will be chaired by Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja.
There is no transfer of functions happening. For the avoidance of doubt, I have no interest in running the city of Nairobi. My hands are full. The governor and his team must run the city of Nairobi.
This is not a transfer of functions, as happened during the NMS time, which was a misadventure that left this city with a 16 billion shillings pending bills whole, and which did not augur well with the true spirit of devolution. It is not a transfer, but a collaboration, which is encouraged and which holds true regard to the mandate given to both of us by the people of Kenya and the citizens of Nairobi.
The deal signed Tuesday will see the national government inject additional funding amounting to 80 billion shillings, 4 times more than what it received in the current financial year. 3.7 billion shillings will be used to modernize street lighting in the capital city, 1.5 billion shillings to purchase transformers for last mile connectivity in Nairobi, and a total of 5 billion shillings for water treatment and supply to the ballooning population in Nairobi. 9 billion shillings has been allocated in the deal for a 27-kilometer sewer line in the northern corridor, with 4 billion shillings set to be used for waste management. The collaboration agreement will also cover security, with the deal seeking to have Nairobi Metropolitan Police Unit that will collaborate with city askaris to restore order in the capital city.
I therefore direct the Cabinet Secretary for Interior to prepare and present within 60 days a framework for a dedicated Nairobi Metropolitan Police Unit.
Devolution is not a competition. Devolution is a collaboration. Your Excellency, devolution is like asking a bird and I've said this before, for a bird to fly, which wing does it need, the right wing or the left wing? It needs both wings to fly, the national government and the county government.
We have to do much more for Nairobi, for this country, for the capital city. And we have to go beyond the comfort zones that have been there.
The deal reads in part, the agreement shall become effective 14 days from the date of execution and shall remain in force for an initial period of 24 months from the date of execution, subject to renewal. The document now goes to the County Assembly of Nairobi to facilitate public participation within the next 14 days. Parties may terminate this agreement mutually, or a party may terminate this agreement by giving 6 months notice to the other party.
Singapore, here we come.
The national government and the county government of Nairobi has insisted that this is not a transfer of functions, but simply a collaboration between the two levels of government in what has now seen Nairobi City County bag an 80 billion shillings additional funding to make it green under the sun. Stephen Leto, Citizen TV, State House, Nairobi.
Now, the cooperation agreement between the national government and Nairobi City County government becomes the second time City Hall has sought the intervention of the national government since the advent of devolution. Ayub Abdikadir reports on the agreement and what's entailed therein, which invokes the city's status as special, thus the need for working together.
While City Hall is granted constitutional autonomy on self-administration, and Article 187 of the law envisioning transfer of functions, the scope of the collaboration agreement seemingly paints an administration unable to carry out its role, seeking support while sheltering under Article 189 of the Constitution.
Can give them a round of applause.
Which spells out cooperation between the two levels of governments. A State House outing that largely reflected how tedious a task managing Nairobi City County has become. And while President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2020 turned to the military for remedial measures, bringing in now retired Lieutenant General Mohamed Badi to administer the county, after former Governor Mike Sonko handed over key functions, the former President William Ruto will take remains unknown, despite downplaying an NMS-style takeover. On the financing mechanism, though the framework envisions joint agreement for financing of all programs, questions abound over the county's financial viability as the richest, with on-source revenue collections hitting the highest in the financial year 2024-25, fetching more than 12.1 billion Kenya shillings. President William Ruto decrying the constitutional financial architecture for the devolved units, instead prescribing a substitution.
The fiscal and operational framework of county financing was not designed for a capital city of this scale and responsibility. Nairobi carries national, regional, and global obligations, but is funded largely through the same formula as other counties.
Your Excellency, in the 13 years of devolution, Nairobi City County has not had an opportunity to leverage and benefit from its unique position as a capital city of the Republic of Kenya to get the special attention, resources, and support it requires for the benefit of the people.
And while City Hall has been bedeviled by a mix of maladministration and failures in financial management, the cooperation agreement, which comes 6 years after Governor Mike Sonko's outing at State House, now symbolizes low faith in its leadership. Ayub Abdikadir, Citizen TV.
Right, and now let's try to get some understanding of this agreement and where it falls in law. Faith Odhiambo, the president of the Law Society of Kenya, is here with us. Thank you very much for joining us, Madam President. Let's speak about this agreement. Does, devolution and the Constitution envision such an arrangement? This time they're calling it cooperation.
Well, it's a thin line between cooperation and usurpation of the roles of the county government. If we look at the NMS decision that Okia Mutata had petitioned the court and Justice Wasilwa ruled against the transfer of responsibilities from the county government to the national government. And I know they have tried to couch it that there is no transfer of functions because that would have required public participation as well as county assembly approving the same. However, they may have alluded in this agreement that there would be public participation. However, there is no mention of the county assembly, and they have tried to be very clear that there is no transfer of functions. But there'll be a question thereafter if there's an overlap of responsibilities and duties, just looking at the recent decision by the High Court with regards to the attempt to transfer functions of Amboseli National Park to the Kajiado County.
Yeah.
So though these are still conservatory orders set in place, it still brings out therefore that under the Constitution there is a very clear line trying to separate the roles of the national government and the county government.
Yeah, and when we speak of usurpation or ceding of functions, as it were, interestingly, there's a steering committee that's supposed to oversee these functions, and the constitution of that committee is interesting, very heavy on the side of national government. I believe it's 8 cabinet secretaries, the Attorney General, and on the county government side, it's the governor and perhaps 3 representatives from the county. What does that say even just initially about how this is going to be run?
Those are the questions now that may later bring in the need for judicial intervention and interpretation. Because even if you look at the implementation framework, you may see that the county takes the chairmanship, but you still see predominantly the PSs from the national government take a huge role. And so that delicate line in terms of ensuring that there's no overlap and there's no attempts to take over any functions, and there must be a very clear and strong collaboration that the county government also has equal say as well as the national government in terms of how they will run and manage this arrangement. But I say it's still a fine line. We are waiting to see. I'm sure they have couched it basing on the decision of Justice Wasilwa to just try and meet and tick the boxes. But how they're going to run and implement will be the bigger question, because that is when it may raise need for judicial intervention.
Yeah, and in fact, actually, the chairperson of that committee is the principal cabinet secretary, and then deputized by the governor of Nairobi County. How does this compare? And I know you've talked about, the previous arrangement and what the court has said. I mean, this is not the first time we're seeing this, Faith. I mean, we've had NMS, we've had, previous arrangements. So there seems to be something happening between the national government and Nairobi City County.
Well, even the realization that Nairobi County still collects the highest amount, the question is the county trying to say that they are not able to sustainably run their functions, and hence they need the government support, because it's couched as a joint committee, and they have of course used the provisions allowing for a joint committee to be formed, that they can collaborate, which is what they have done. The question is, how will they implement that? Will we see that done? And that's what I'm telling you, they have. This agreement has been couched based on what Justice Wasilwa said, and the fine lines on public participation. Where is the need for the county assembly to come in? Is there an outright transfer of functions? And you've even had the governor saying that this is clearly not a transfer of functions. We're just sitting together to agree so that we're able to run this county in a more economic manner, and ensure that things are working well in this county. But we're waiting to see how the mechanics of that actually comes through, because we might see in word they'll say it's not NMS, but in action it could turn out to be.
Okay.
And so that's why I say it's still a fine line. We have seen this before, and I think government is refining itself based on court interventions that have been done before, and so we'll wait and see if there's court intervention again, and if court refines final lines in terms of, is this overstepping the mandate of where national government should play a role with the county. And this is not to say that national government cannot work with the county to ensure efficiency. But I think the bringing out that fine line of the role that national government and counties should play is quite important, because that's the only way that you can realize actual devolution and people actually benefit from resources, and that they are not tangled to the top as we have seen in the past.
All right. Okay, thank you for that. Stay with us, Faith. We've got lots to talk about. How many days left to be president? 2 days. The election takes the election takes place on Thursday. On Thursday.
I hand over at my AGM on 27th. AGM on 27th, but yes, they will have a new president.
Yes.
They will have a new president-elect in 2 days.
In 2 days.